Hello, welcome back. It's still Tuesday, July 23rd, but it's the end of the day now, and I was trying to record at least another video or two, still going along the themes of literary analysis here. And I've left off, in previous videos in the last week or two, I've been talking about a lot of American class and style and art and business. And I've been talking about it in context now of American writers like Charles Bukowski and Hunter S. Thompson, and I even referenced Kurt Vonnegut Jr. And so today I wanted to talk about his debut novel, Player Piano. And from the wiki, so you have an idea of what Kurt Vonnegut Jr.'s Player Piano was about. It's the debut novel, published 1952. Novel depicts a dystopia of automation, partly inspired by the author's time working at General Electric, describing the negative impact technology can have on quality of life. So there you go. There's the basic premise. It's a dystopic future where basically everything is owned by the corporation state. People are unnecessary to each other. They've been rendered obsolete because there's no need for humanity, because everything is produced and consumed through automation. And, there's just a few jobs here and there. And the race has been completely and thoroughly dehumanized and, all robbed of all dignity, all sense of self or self-respect. There's just none of that, right? So I just grabbed a few excerpts, a few lines. I'm not going to go very far with it because, again, I think this stuff is pretty self-explanatory. So we're going to start off with two characters talking, and the one's asking the doctor, like a sociologist or whoever he is, don't you see, doctor? The machines are to practically everybody what the white man was to the Indians. People are finding that because of the way of the machines are changing the world, more and more of their old values don't apply anymore. People have no choice but to become second-rate machines themselves or wards of the machines. Meaning, right, there's people the people don't own the machines, they don't profit directly from the machines, but they have to run them, they have to maintain them, and that there's no use for them because they've been replaced by machines. So the only way they can compete is by becoming second-rate machines themselves, right? This is production, this is consumption. So it goes on. And then the other part of it was, right, their old values, like the notion of morality. Like, we live in a post-moral society. Yes, everyone still has to play the game socially because their reputations are on the line, right? It's the same reason, like, even as farcical as our politics are, and as much as everyone knows it's all double think and double speak and everyone's cynical, it's like they still have to go up there and bang their podiums and say the things that make them sound good, that make their opponents sound bad, right? It's predictable. You could write it in your sleep, really. It's just a matter of who puts on the better performance, and in America particularly, basically who has the better hair wins almost every time. And then maybe there's a few exceptions to that, but anyway, going on with the story, Player Piano. What do you expect? He said. Oh yeah, I think that's it. What do you expect? He said. For generations, they've been built up to worship competition and the market, productivity and economic usefulness, and the envy of their fellow men, and boom, it's all yanked out from underneath them. They can't participate. They can't be useful anymore. Their whole culture's been shot to hell. I don't know if that rings a bell to anyone. I know for the few people who have a decent position today know that, it's just like in terms of the future, population collapse, lack of education, rampant misinformation and stupidity, lowering of standards, a lot of fakes in positions of authority, up to the highest offices of the land. When it's like that, when your civilization and your time period is just this epoch of decline, that just goes hand in hand with the territory. Back to the system and the people in it, no one can live up to any of their ideals or their standards or their dreams because none of that applies anymore. In a post-moral factory farm world of, where you have to willingly let yourself be deceived to believe in anything, you see that there's no meaning or purpose in any of it. It's all just a nihilistic, it's life and history. Basically time ceases to have any meaning at this juncture. If you can't live by your values, if none of it applies anymore, if you can't even instantiate the story in a way that people can believe, and believe in a way that, well, isn't perpetual war, because that's a different state of being, right? I think it's pretty American too. But, oh, here you go. I've discussed this, right? Country of C students. Look, I'm not trying to be mean, but the character says, almost nobody's competent, Paul. It's enough to make you cry to see how bad most people are at their jobs. If you can do a half-assed job of anything, you're a one-eyed man in this kingdom of the blind. And when I was thinking about just how the corporation state works, the red tape, it's not even the costs of it are deadly. What's so hard, especially as a individual and a small business owner, what makes it so hard isn't that all this stuff costs money and more money, because you can make more money, you can borrow money, you can lend money. There's so many things you can do about money. That's actually not the problem. The problem is that everything is designed to waste my time, right? I get, their problem, their products and services crap out. I'm stuck on customer support. I'm wasting hours and hours. They're not costing me the cost of the product. They're costing me my life. They're wasting my precious time. And it's like everyone wants to wrap me up, or the consumer up, in perpetual goods and services in an insidious way that just will take up all your time. And I know they try to sync up the devices now to say, oh, save time, just sync up all your stuff. And it's like, it just, and it consolidates your data, makes it easier for, them to use against you and to sell to others. It's funny. I've done a lot of unsolicited marketing for Cadillac. I got a letter in the mail the other day from Cadillac, and it was a reverse consent letter, meaning they were saying, please respond to this if you don't want us to sell your data. If you don't want us to profit off your data, please get back to us. And it was a letter, and I just looked at it, I tore it in half, threw it in the trash, said, thanks for wasting my time, thanks for the crock of shit, right? Is utter farce. Why even bother sending me the letter? Most people don't have time. Like, I've known people who've gotten wrapped up with problems with products, services, insurance, medical industry, you name it. And then the only reason, they're fortunate enough to be in a good place in life that they can afford the time it takes to call and fight with these people, to argue with these people, to go, you made mistakes, you need to fix this. A lot of people, they don't have the time on a daily basis for how much stuff goes wrong. I don't have time to troubleshoot everything because I'm doing my own work for other people, right? There's a lot I could say about this. So the competent people are actually drowned out in the mediocrity. But this is where, in the last video when I said for enterprising individuals, now is your time. Now is your time to shine. Lots of people are bailing out. Lots of people are getting off. It's your turn to get on. It's your turn to profit thereby. If everyone created this system and now wants to check out, well, hey, it's there for somebody, right? Because if not, then it's there for nobody. What was otherwise the point if we're just going to automate ourselves into uselessness, or making ourselves irrelevant to self and other selves, to where life is just this numb distraction, or this ever more abstracted thing until it's national politics, and this is where people's identity and fight lies, even though they have no real skin in the game. They're completely alienated and locked out of that world, but the performance of it, speaks to the need of the psychodrama. It's religious in nature in that regard. All performance is, at least with good actors, genuine actors too. So, speaking of the kingdom of the blind, characters go on, and I'll leave this up to the viewers. Without regard for the wishes of men, any machines or techniques or forms of organization that can economically replace men do replace men, including women, right, as the primary workforce. Replacement is not necessarily bad, but to do it without regard for the wishes of men is lawlessness, right? I guess in a country like America, you would say that's anti-democratic, right? Yet, who even voted for the presidential nominee? I guess we probably shouldn't go there. I don't really care, really. It's going to be more insanity, and America is going to further look like the circus, and the decline and the morbidity, and will be apparent for the world to see once again. Not that it isn't every day. It's funny. Everything you think because somebody promoted the ideas. Education, nothing but promotion, aka marketing, aka advertising. Americans have been taught to believe in education, even though they often go to an education system that fails them right before their very eyes, or at least the 99.9% of people around them. Or 9, probably be like 97 or maybe 85%. Anyway, 3,000 dream house. Oh, he's talking about the suburbs, right? Something like that. Or maybe even just the projects. 3,000 dream houses for 3,000 families with presumably identical dreams. Ugh, yeah. Go through these doors, you're going to have to stoop. You know, you look at these houses and these buildings and you go, like, this isn't grand architecture. No one's going to care about this. Like, this is an eyesore. This is most of what men build. Uh, or it doesn't seem like men or anyone's building it at all. It seems like some sort of bad programming is building a lot of these houses and these machineries. Okay, here we go. This crusading spirit of the managers and the engineers, the idea of designing and manufacturing and distributing being sort of a holy war. All that folklore was cooked up by public relations and advertising men hired by managers and engineers to make big business popular in the old days, which it certainly wasn't in the beginning, right? Because it was about family, it was about community, it was about who you know, it was about reputation and trust. It wasn't large, deferred responsibility and managerial elite and administration people bloating out the whole structure until they're the dead weight. They're there to make it efficient until they're the dead weight, until they're the problem, and they are the problem. We got so many midwits in places they don't just belong. They just don't belong. So yep, it certainly wasn't popular in the beginning. Now the engineers and managers believe with all their hearts the glorious things their forebears hired people to say about them. Right? What a head job. You guys came to believe your own bullshit. Everyone likes the smell of their own, right? Yesterday's snow job becomes today's sermon, right? And he goes on, that's just it. Things haven't always been that way. It's new, and it's people like us who have brought it about. And he's talking about the managers and the engineers. And in another part of the book, he says the very same people who go, society would be perfect if only it wasn't for people getting in the way. Who are we building this for? What are we building this for? Oh, nobody? To no reason? Oh, you mean a few bodies? Oh, but no. Okay, gotcha. Anyway, it hasn't always been this way. It's new, and they brought it about. Hell, everybody used to have some personal skill or willingness to work or something he could trade for what he wanted. Now that the machines have taken over, it's quite somebody who has anything to offer at all. All most people can do is hope to be given something. And when I mentioned the identity and wrapping oneself up with national politics, that's exactly what I think that is. That sense of meaning and purpose in any sense of coherent story or society or community or anything wrapped up in the furthest thing that's removed from anyone's life except as the most dehumanizing and far removed influences. The very same people who prefabricated your lives, the very same people who lie to you every day, the very same people who do nothing to help you and who have done less since rulers since Napoleonic times. And if you remember how history went, not only was there a strong reaction to those absentee rulers, because the people realized they served no purpose, right? So they're gone. They were long gone. And then, it was severe the biggest economic depression in history, basically in modern history, after that, right? So he makes it clear that it's not just like, you hear it in our preachers, you hear it in our politics, you hear it everywhere. Everyone's sighing over the state of the world. You built the prison system, you staffed it, you do all this, and then you sigh about it and you complain about it, and then you all say, oh, if only someone would do something, right? Everyone says the same thing. And then politics, it's all the same stories over and over again. And for all these big promises everyone's making, they're going to look really bad when things crash, when things get out of control and out of their hands. They're probably going to lack the humility to say, hey, we were wrong. Hey, we lied to you. Hey, this has been a controlled burn. Hey, we're organizing and creating this for us, not for you. Like, everything flows back to us. None of it's for you. Everything, when I've been saying time and time again for months now on this channel, everyone and everything has been devalued. Everyone and everything has been robbed of value. This is what I mean. The machines can run it all. And even right now, the government the Fed runs 75% non-discretionary spending, meaning it's already locked in 75% mandatory. It's already self-running. It's going to further lock itself into whatever business models best promote a few people at the expense of everyone else. So it will be up to the people to figure out what they value when they have no money, when they have nothing, when they can't afford houses, when they can't afford schooling, when they can't afford anything. It's going to be for them to figure out what it is they value about themselves and life, because it's otherwise been stripped from them, it's otherwise been stolen from them, they've otherwise been shackled with crippling debt and cost of living, and then everyone turns around and pretends like selling the fantasy and selling the lie is going to work for another few years, right? We can just kick that can, trillions in debt, right? This is how delusional and removed from reality. And I get it, these are heavy subjects and these are serious matters, both economically, realistically, practically, individually, collectively. That brings up serious questions of what are we going to do? What is Western man going to do? What are Americans going to do? What's the country going to do? And given our track record, it doesn't look good. And what I said before is you never know, there's no point in history that has this much momentum built up behind it that doesn't play out its first few acts without the next ones coming through. Anyway, I think this is mostly done here. It's crazy that he wrote this book over, 70 some odd years ago, right? And that it's basically prophecy, basically predicted the future, right? People can't live by their values. People have nothing to trade and no willingness to trade. Or to the degrees that they do, they're stingy and they're alienated from themselves and one another. Any sense of individuality or coherent group identity and meaning, right? They're all just hanging on to these machines and working on these machines for dear life. Like no one's actually happy. No one's fulfilled or contented. No one is actually, their heart isn't in it. No one's actually happy with their job and what they're doing. And, I guess just like the real world, there's a handful of people who can capitalize on this, and they do. And they largely do so by exploiting everyone else. So, this story, Player Piano, is the dystopic logical conclusion. And we're seeing that play out. And we're going to continue to see that play out. The fallout's going to keep coming, ladies and gentlemen. The fallout, it's been happening and it's going to continue to happen. So again, I'm Zach Morkowski with Sharper Pen Image Consulting. This has been another literary analysis. This has been Player Piano by Kurt Vonnegut Jr. Thanks for listening. Take care of yourself. Take care of your loved ones, because no one else is going to do it for you. But I promise you that Big Brother, even though, yeah, people wish he was there, people wish he cared. I promise you that some larger, nebulous, irresponsible authority will be happy to take any power you delegate. They'll be happy to take your money, your time, your life, right? Just like customer service, you'll get stuck there forever in a sort of purgatory if you're not careful. And at this point, the American dream, is customer service. Maybe that's what the goal was, to get everyone stuck on menial task labors. You can't get anywhere then. There's no competition then. I don't think, it's not without design is my point. And, when the hands behind it are insane and out of touch and off in their own world, we wind up with an insane world, an insane populace. That the normal thinks it's sane, that the insane thinks it's sane, that you can do the insane thing, your own self-defined American definition of insanity, supposedly, I don't remember who said it, supposedly Einstein, I don't think it actually was, but, to repeat the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Hey, if we vote for this actor, if we vote for this liar, if we vote for this head of hair, hey, if we ignore the reality around us and repress the ugliness, in ourselves and others, that'll work, right? That we can do that for a few more years. We can pretend like this isn't happening. We can social distance and isolate ourselves, and then everyone's an easier target, right? But I'm not trying to be cynical here. I'm pointing out this is exactly how these things work, which also sets me up for next video. One of the next videos I want to do in the series, not necessarily next, but somewhere down the line, is Carl Jung's The Undiscovered Self, where he talks about the individual in relation to the collective and the zeitgeist of what this modern totalitarian tyranny kind of looks like, which I'll contrast in terms of how that's given way to a soft scale tyranny of something like Player Piano, of, hey, the society runs itself. You don't even need someone there with a whip. You don't need someone there to tyrannize. If you condition the people properly, if you give them lines to line up in, and if you do things enough in that direction and beat them over the head with it and condition them like dogs day after day, and if you repeat your slogans and your propaganda enough, they will behave like you want them to behave, like training any animal. Any sophisticated animal can be trained. Any intelligent animal can be trained, as are men and women, and they are. And they're trained to be the best proponents and agents in their own dehumanization, their own slavery, and their own tyranny and tyrannization. Anyway, thanks again. Take care of yourselves. I hope I didn't ruin your day or your stomach, but honestly, if you don't have a strong stomach, you don't belong on this channel. You probably shouldn't read. You probably shouldn't take in any kind of information from the world around you, right? Life is rife with pain and suffering and problems, and all those things are no argument against it. It's actually part of the challenge and part of the joy. And I just keep going, so I better stop. Anyway, thanks again. I appreciate it.